Welcome to this first video of our free training series, Protecting Your Mind, Body and Energy Fields. Roop and I are so grateful that you are joining us for this free training course and are excited to share with you over these 3 videos our top tips in protecting your mind, body and energy. So the first thing I want to say about this is that we are not protecting out of a place of fear. We're protecting out of a place of love for ourselves, for nature, and for those around us. When we really truly come into a place of stability and groundedness and compassion and kindness for ourselves, what it means is that we are minimizing or even eliminating our own projections towards others. We're coming from this more stable, grounded, and loving and compassionate place. Our heart energy is amplified, strong, impacting positively the world around us and others. And this is by far the most powerful protection we have for others, to protect others, and also to protect ourselves. We're doing it out of love for ourselves, our mind, our body, and our energy fields, and for the love of others around us. So I just want to start off by saying that there has never ever been a better time to cleanse, to protect, to enliven, to activate our innate human technologies. We are in some of the most exciting times that human civilization, that humanity, that this planet has ever seen. The mass awakening that is happening right now because of the current challenges facing humanity, sentient beings, and Mother Earth. The awakening that's happening right now is phenomenal. And I'm not just talking about a spiritual awakening, because that's not the only way that people are waking up to the reality of this world, this physical reality, of the energetic fields, of consciousness, of all of this stuff that's here, that's present in this existence. People are waking up to it in their own way. It doesn't have to be in a spiritual way. I used to be caught up in everything spiritual. So if you were waking up, it was a spiritual thing. If you were making realizations about yourself and the nature of reality, it's a spiritual thing. And you know what? I've changed my mind about that. Awakening isn't just about finding a path that we may call a spiritual path. Awakening is about simply activating and turning on to the true nature of our essence, of who we really are. It's waking up to the different dimensions to ourself, to the realization that we are mind, we are body, we are spirit. And there is an interconnectedness within our being that makes us whole, connecting all of these different parts of us, but that actually we are connected to the world. We are connected to nature, to other beings, through the unified field of consciousness or the morphogenetic field, or whatever you want to call it. But that field of consciousness we're all connected to Mother Nature's earth we're connected to the cosmic energies we're connected to. And so as we awaken, we start to make some of these realizations. And it might not be a spiritual thing, it just is. It's just something new that I now know I'm starting to feel into. I'm inviting more into my life. So if you found this free training, you're one of those people that is waking up or woken up. And I'm really excited to share in this first video how you can protect your mind. So the first thing I want to say is that there are 3 aspects to the mind that I want to share with you. First of all, the mind is multiple. The mind isn't just one ego, one big personality that's behaving in a dominant, that has a dominant sort of behavior or predisposition. The mind is multiple. We have many parts within our system, many parts of our mind, many aspects of us, many masks, many personalities, whatever you want to call it. But for this purpose, I'm going to call them parts. I'm from the internal family systems lineage of psycho-spiritual therapy, and this is a way that we speak about our internal system of our mind as different parts of us. So that's the first thing. Have you had a situation where something's, I don't know, come to your attention, like there's going to be a party on Friday, and a part of you feels really excited and really like, yeah, I'm up for this. I've been waiting for a party for a while. But then another part of you feels differently, feels like, oh my gosh, who's going to be there? Or is my ex going to be there? Or, I don't know people that are going to go. I feel a bit nervous, or maybe there'll be alcohol and I don't drink anymore. And you can find yourself in the middle of these 2 different parts of you that have different ideas. This is an example of 2 different parts in our system that at any given time can be in this completely polar opposite position. But we don't just have 2 parts. We have lots and lots of different parts of our mind. And as you start to tune in, connect more to your mind and your mind-body complex. So this is the interaction between the mind and the body. So that the mind very much lives in the body, and we get sensations and feelings in the body that alert us to these parts of our mind. And as we start to sink deeper into this awareness and this dialogue with our mind and body, then we start to feel into the different parts. We start to meet these different parts of us and become familiar with them and befriend them. And that's the ultimate goal, is to befriend our inner world. So that's number 1, the mind is multiple. Number 2 is that the parts of us are already protective. The thing that unites all of our parts, the one common denominator, the thing that they all have in common, is that they are here to protect us. They all have a protective role. And this is something we can start to learn about as we create this new dialogue with our mind, as we can ask, as we meet a different part or aspect of our mind, we can even find out, what is your role? What is your intention? What are you protecting me from? You can have that dialogue and learn more about the aspect of that mind, the protective aspect of the mind, or the role and responsibility that it has, which is often in some way protective. And so it's important to really honor that our mind has this incredible role, and any appreciation or positivity that we can send to those aspects of our mind, all aspects of our mind, in appreciation for the protective roles that they play, is going to help us to build that relationship with the mind, with the different aspects of our mind. Again, build those relationships, befriend. And the third thing that I want to share is that the inner workings of the mind, the behaviors, the feelings, the actions that the mind inspires the body to take, inspires us to take, is created or influenced by past experience. So this can be things that happened to us that were adverse childhood experiences, for example. It can be a trauma that happened to us earlier in our life and we took on burdens as a result of that. It can be really challenging or difficult times in our life that put a stress on the body and on the mind that was really challenging for the internal world to navigate. It could be times when something happened and we didn't get the support that we needed. It can be lots of different contexts, situations that happened. And so these experiences impacted the mind, and the mind had to organize itself in a way in order to protect us. And then the mind, moving forward, the mind then continues to create these layers of protection, these barriers, and change our behavior in order to protect us from ever experiencing that adverse experience again, from ever opening up an old wound also, because the mind can come into a place of distrust because of these negative experiences. The mind can have felt unsafe back then, and unheard and unprotected. And so the mind now takes this responsibility to really create that safety by doing what it knows how to do, which is often distancing us from certain situations, triggering feelings within us that kind of alert us to like a danger zone. Maybe triggering fear or anger, again as a way to sort of distance us from certain situations. There are many responses that the body and the mind has because of this past stuff that helps to protect us moving forward. And I'm sure at this point there are different triggers perhaps that you can identify, different behaviors that you can feel into, like, oh, okay, I feel like that's a response to this, something old that the body and the mind can remember that didn't feel safe. And the other thing that I want to mention at this point is about self or soul energy. So we can't talk about the aspects of our mind without talking about self or soul energy. And again, I want to share 3 different important aspects of self energy to you so that you can start to discern between when you're in this abundance of self energy and when perhaps you're more in your mind energy, or when both are present. And as we move forward, we start to discern between when I'm self-led and like I can feel like I've got this abundance of self-soul energy, and when I'm maybe not so self-led, so when I'm being led more by my mind or the parts of my mind. And that's really going to help us to just navigate, be more present and be whole, because there isn't any right or wrong. This isn't about like saying that when I'm in my mind, that's not good, because my mind's taking me over and soul is better. That's not what we're saying. In the tradition of yoga itself, yoga means unity. And so what we are doing, living a dharmic, a purposeful life, is we are creating wholeness, creating unity in our system. We're uniting all those aspects of us to move forward as one whole being. So first, what we need to do is start to pick apart and see things as they're kind of in terms of their difference and how different things feel. And then when we gain more and more an awareness of that, we bring it all together and we become whole. So the 3 aspects of self-energy I want to share with you. The first one, most important one, is that soul or self is always here. I don't have a soul, I am soul. Soul doesn't live in this body. This body is an expression of soul. Soul manifested this body in order to have this human experience. So soul is always present, always here, just patiently waiting for us to embody soul, for this mind and body to connect and embody soul. Second is that soul has no judgment. Soul doesn't think negatively about us or nature or others or anything going on. Soul is a pure energy of consciousness connected to our higher self. And soul's key characteristics, or self energy, so I use these terms intermittently. Soul or self's characteristics are compassion, courage, clarity, playfulness, joy, abundance, creativity, courage, clarity, There are many, many more characteristics of self, soul energy, and you get the point, right? This pure, clear, bright energy holding space for us as we navigate this incredible experience. And the third thing that I want to share about self or soul energy is that it is an abundant, creative energy that we can always embody and always tap into. And many of the parts in our system are getting closer. They want to be closer to self or soul energy. Many of the parts in our system are very aware of self and soul energy and really want to embody more of that. Some of the parts in our system aren't so aware of self energy, or perhaps not so trusting. Maybe some of these parts of us are very young parts. Maybe they experienced trauma when we were younger. And a trauma can just be something that happened to you that felt really destabilizing and unsafe, and that you felt at the time shouldn't have happened to you. Those kind of experiences are the ones that create this deep, deep feeling of distrust and insecurity in some of our parts, which becomes very entrenched. And this is our beautiful opportunity to start to befriend these parts and start to tend to them in a way that maybe they missed out on, and be with some of the parts in our system in a way that we couldn't be with them back then. So there are two major things that are in the way of our mind being fully aligned to our self or soul energy. So the first thing is a more connected relationship. So this is a more connected relationship between soul and mind. This is the type of relationship that we want to have, to speak to our mind and mind-body complex from the seat of soul. So in the past, perhaps when we haven't been as embodied in our soul energy, we've been more in our mind, we've been more connected to or blended with an aspect of our mind, which we potentially was very, more of a dominating part of us, which kind of led the way in our interactions or in our inner dialogue. And potentially, as we weren't fully aligned with or embodying our soul or self energy, we weren't creating this relationship and building trust and clarity and confidence in the system between mind and between self energy. And this is the opportunity that we now have to create. One of the reasons why we didn't do that, or may not have done that so well back then, was because it can often feel very overwhelming when we're in a challenging situation or something is triggered within us, because another part can come up. So often we have an initial trigger of, again, this initial trigger can be because we're coming close to an old wound, or something's touching on a nerve, and this trigger happens and we get afraid, for example, or angry. Something really that someone else said really angers us. And often when this comes up, we push it aside or suppress it. And that's because sometimes it's just another part of us comes up that feels frustrated, or feels even afraid, or feels like we can't deal with this right now, we're just so busy, we need to move on. So an initial trigger comes up, and then something else comes up that actually makes us want to just push that initial trigger aside, to just get on with it. Sometimes it's really subtle. Sometimes it can even feel like a really positive intention, like we can say to ourselves, just think positively and everything will be okay. But actually what we're doing is we are suppressing that anger that's originally arose within us. We're not being present with it. So this is the second thing that's in the way of our mind being aligned. It's these mechanisms that we may not have, or we may not have exercised very much. These mechanisms of knowing how to work through and be present with the parts of us. Because what happens is this creates a cycle. A trigger comes up, we feel frustrated, we push it away. That initial thing doesn't get resolved and just comes back in full force next time, and we have this cycle that's created. So my number one piece of advice for you is to learn to be present with what is arising. To learn to really notice and acknowledge what is arising in your internal system. And then when you notice something else arising, like frustration or more fear or wanting to push or suppress, then just to be also with that part. So you're now with the initial and you're with this second part, to be able to hold both of them, direct your attention from the seed of your self energy, and to be able to work with this part to get it to relax and get it to calm or be like air, as one of my clients recently said. And that will relax to allow you to be present with this initial part. And this is where the magic happens. This is how we then develop a relationship with these fundamental parts of us that are triggered, that come up, those fundamental anxieties and fears and all sorts of energies. Because ultimately, anxiety is sort of like a mid to end result of what happens when we have this unaddressed trigger or this unaddressed emotion that comes up. And a trigger can be an emotion too. And when it's unaddressed and we just kind of keep pushing it away, then other parts in the system start to get agitated, maybe frustrated, maybe they want it to be, and all these parts kind of pop up. And it's this bubbling away and buzzing away in the system that creates anxiety. It's a collection of energy. So the way for us to neutralize anxiety is go to the core, is to be present with each and every emotion, thought, feeling, sensation that arises, each trigger that arises within us, and see it as an opportunity to be more connected, to befriend our inner world, to anchor into the seat of soul, and to create this beautiful new dialogue. So I'm so excited to share a very simple practice with you. So take a moment to close your eyes, get comfortable in your seat, feel your feet grounded on the earth, place your hands down, facing downwards on your knees or your thighs, and just take 3 deep breaths in through the nose and hold the breath at the top and then exhale through the mouth. So let's do this together. Inhale, a slow, long, deep breath in through the nose. Breathing into the belly, and hold the breath gently at the top. And exhale through the mouth. Release and draw the belly in towards the spine, fully emptying the lungs. And let's do this 2 more times. Exhale through the mouth. And the final inhale. And exhale fully. Take a few natural breaths. Relax the face, the shoulders, the arms. And connect to your inner world. So either call forward a part to work with, or just feel around into your inner space to see if there are any thoughts feelings or emotions, any messages, any images, any voices. And whatever it is that's arising, just notice it. Notice the quality of it. Notice how it looks, how it appears. Notice its energy. Notice perhaps what it's sharing with you or saying to you, or the colors, or even just the feelings. And acknowledge its presence. Let it know that it's okay, that it's there, that you are glad that it showed up and revealed itself to you. And spend a moment to get to know this part. Maybe ask it what its role is. Maybe ask it if there's a message that it wants to share with you. Perhaps it has an intention for you, a responsibility that it plays. And maybe notice if you're near this part, if you can get a little bit closer, or maybe it wants you to stay at a distance. So whatever this energy, this part, this aspect of you is showing you, even if it's just sensation, just acknowledge it. Allow it to be there, allow it to be okay to be there, and tend to it in whatever way feels right for this time, for this moment. And if another energy is arising, so if you can feel a doubt, a fear, a frustration, perhaps even a judgment or an anger or another energy rising in response to this initial energy that you're working with, again, just hold that lightly, acknowledge it, let it know that you can see it and that it's okay for it to be there. And what you can do with this part that's arising is just let it know that you're in a process to get to know the original energy that's come up. And ask it if it will just gently relax, step to the side, or even just watch from the sidelines so that you can be present with this initial part or aspect of you that's arose. And just see if that other part can just relax a little bit, can soften a little bit, and just move aside to let you go back to being present with that part of you that you were initially working with. And again, just breathe your energy down to it. Let it know that you can see it. Give it gratitude and show appreciation for whatever it's sharing with you. Take a few deep breaths into your system. And if any other parts are now revealing themselves to you with more to share, simply acknowledge them and show them all appreciation. And maybe make a commitment to your inner world to come back, to engage with the different parts of you in a different way, either later today or at another time. And let your inner world know that this is a new relationship that you can establish and continue. Take a few deep breaths down into your system. Connect back into those parts that arose. Send them gratitude and appreciation. And when you're ready, come back into this space. Feel yourself grounded, connected to the earth, sitting on your chair. Open your eyes and be present once more with this video. So I hope that you enjoyed or you took something from this very, very simple practice of befriending a part of our mind. This is the most basic and fundamental practices that I share. It is the most simple yet the most powerful. It takes some time to get used to dialoguing with our internal world in this way. But I guarantee you, with more practice, going back into the system, with this new way that you will tend to your inner world when those feelings, emotions, or triggers come up in that initial moment, really acknowledge and drawing it in and being present with it and working on those frustrations or those other triggers that come up, I guarantee you that this is going to help you to neutralize anxiety, fear, stress, and worry that is causing the mind to become more busy, fragmented, and burdened. And through empowering our mind-body complex in this way, through really aligning the mind with soul energy, we start to grow our energy fields. We start to resonate in a different way. We start to become these powerful beings of alignment and manifestation. And this is how we protect the mind, through really creating unity within it. This is how we protect the mind from projecting onto others around us, from creating these cycles of karma with others around us. And ultimately how we protect our own mind from the projections in the outside world, because when those projections come in, we can just be present with what's arising. We can do that work in the moment to be okay with that and to work to tend to the system, to address the system, acknowledge the system, calm or soothe it, and protect ourselves by creating this strong, abundant system, integrated system. Have a beautiful time exploring these practices, and I will connect with you soon. Thank you for joining.